Your verdict must be based on the facts and the evidence.
And I feel confident if he could live that night over again, he would certainly live it over differently.
Attorneys wrapped their arguments, and jurors today began deliberating the legal fate of John Goodman.
Good evening, I'm Kelly Dunn.
And I'm Michael Williams. After a day of closing arguments, jurors began those deliberations this afternoon. Briefly, they've recessed for the night.
News Channel 5 anchor Jay Cashmere is leading our team coverage tonight from the courthouse. Jay?
Kelly, Michael, a big day as we enter the final stretch of this DUI manslaughter trial here. Today, as you mentioned, jurors went into deliberations around 4:30. It only lasted 30 minutes. They came back and said they all had agreed that they wanted to go home at 5 o'clock. So about an hour ago, the jurors went home. They will reconvene tomorrow and begin deliberations at 8 o'clock. It was very interesting to note they asked for highlighters tomorrow. Maybe an indication that they have a lot of work ahead of them with all the paperwork, all the notes that they have to file through tomorrow. Nonetheless, deliberations beginning at 8 o'clock tomorrow. But today was a huge day with closing arguments. Both sides really trying to throw out that last pitch, that final plea to the jurors to leave an impression on whether or not John Goodman is guilty of DUI manslaughter or not. It's a huge case. It's been going for 3 weeks now, and the final hours are weighing in as we speak right now. And today, a lot of details poured out into the courtroom as closing arguments continued here. For Ellen Roberts, she has the burden of proof here. The state must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Ellen Roberts really highlighting common sense. That was a tone and a theme that surrounded her closing argument. On the other side of the spectrum here, Roy Black here. Roy Black basically said, look, this was a terrible accident. It was not a crime. He said John Goodman should be tried on evidence, not innuendo, not speculation. So a lot of details coming out today. It's the final stretch, the final plea as we speak. News Channel 5's Alex Sands was in the courtroom today monitoring the developments. He joins me live from the other side of the Palm Beach County Courthouse with a breakdown of the closing arguments. Alex.
This is, as you said, Jay, in the hands of a jury now after all these days of testimony, all these witnesses. For hours today, we watched as attorneys made that final case of a jury. Take a listen.
The question is, did John Goodman deliberately leave somebody to die in that water? I think almost everybody has said how dark it was there that night, that there was no light, that you couldn't see anything, that people who were not impaired could not see the car in the canal, that all was sticking up were a couple of tires and the bottom of the car, and that was covered in vegetation, that John Goodman told everybody he talked to he never saw a car. He never saw a car, or never said he saw a car in the canal. This man did not deliberately walk away and leave somebody there to die like they want you to believe.
The state has shown to you beyond a... Is that likely? Is that probable? The state has shown to you beyond a reasonable doubt. He drove under the influence of alcohol. He plowed through that stop sign, pushed that little car in that canal, and let that boy drown. And he ran away. Is he a bad person? No. But he must be held accountable for that young man's death. He must be held accountable. You cannot let these excuses, these suppositions, these stories get in your way. Look at the evidence.
John Goodman, of course, is facing some serious charges: DUI, manslaughter, vehicular homicide. The jury can find him guilty of both, guilty of one, or of neither, or a lesser charge altogether. He's facing, as you know, Jay, 30 years in prison if he is convicted.
Alex Sands continuing our coverage during Verdict Watch from the Palm Beach County Courthouse. Alex, thank you very much. I want to welcome in local criminal defense attorney and News Channel 5 legal analyst Michelle Suskauer. The jury heard some really big points, some crucial points today in these closing arguments. They have a lot to handle when they reconvene tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, a lot to go through.
They really do. You know, they heard things from both sides, from the state, like use your common sense, and from Roy Black, that he doesn't say that John Goodman was framed, but that the state and the police have their blinders on. So they're hearing some really different information. They're going to be going into this jury room get all of the evidence in this case, and there's so much. I mean, they're using triple letters and triple numbers with the amount of exhibits that have been entered. Reviewing everything, they asked for highlighters, so they are going to be pouring through all of this evidence. They could hear readbacks of testimony, and it could be hours and hours before they reach a verdict in this case.
We talked about Roy Black's closing arguments today and some of the details and the finer points of it. How do you think he did overall? You're a local criminal defense attorney. You know, when you go into the courtroom, this is your final, last-ditch effort that you have to really talk to that jury and leave that impression. How did he do?
And what you have to do as a defense lawyer is wave the flag, and he literally almost waved the flag and almost singing "God Bless America" at the end of his closing. He actually did say that. But he pointed out that reasonable doubt and burden of proof are not just cliches, and that evidence of innocence should never be ignored. He pulled out all the stops here, and he really, you know, I mean, his client's life is absolutely on the line. Although, you know, 30 years, that's basically the rest of his life. So he just did not leave any stone unturned, and again, the state as well, in pointing out to the jury to use their common sense and reviewing all of the evidence with the jury, from the alcohol intoxication to what they claim are false claims of a concussion and car malfunctions.
Interesting topics of discussion today. Michelle Suskauer, thank you very much. Closing arguments are done. The jury is deliberating. They'll reconvene here with highlighters in hand at 8 o'clock bright and early tomorrow morning. We'll send it back to the studio, guys.
Jay, thank you, and stay with News Channel 5 for ongoing coverage of the jury deliberation phase of the John Goodman trial. We'll have the verdict live when it happens on News Channel 5 and on our website, WPTV.